Hello and welcome back to the Fast Forward podcast with me, your host, PitStopNic, and I am joined by a very wonderful guest, Chris Stevens. So for those of you who don't know Chris, he is an excellent commentator, broadcaster, presenter, and a friend of mine. We met in early 2024 and we're both rep by the same agency, but today he is here to chat all about his journey into motorsport and, you know, life as a commentator, life in the commentary booth. So welcome, Chris.
Hello, PitStopNic. Are we going with brand names on this one?
Chris on Racing and PitStopNic.
Okay, good. It sounds like a really good like ITV detective duo.
Oh, I was going to say like a kids' TV show on maybe like
that.
Yeah, perhaps.
I'll go with that.
So, I want to know if you were to write LinkedIn bio a bit tipsy after a glass of wine or two, what would it say? How would you come across?
If I was being really harsh on myself, it would probably be not good enough to be a journalist, not good enough to be a PR, maybe good enough to be a commentator, because that's the career progression that I took. I think if I was being less self-critical, it would just be guy who talks about race cars a lot.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's like stripped back in its most simple form, I guess.
Yeah.
But let's dive into your career path because you've had quite the journey. So tell me where it started and how you got to where you are now in like a whistle-stop tour kind of way.
If I go right back to the beginning, I set up a blog when I was like 14 years old, just writing stuff about Formula One.
Yeah.
And a friend of the family helped me set that up. He was a political correspondent near Nottingham, and my grandfather was a local councilman, so he knew a few journalists. And so, sort of that was my first step on the ladder, really. And I remember the first thing I wrote, it was a complaint about being able to change tires under a red flag during the 2011 Monaco Grand Prix. Because if you remember that race, we had like Vettel on really knackered tires, Alonso chasing him on fresher tires, and then Button, who had the freshest tires, right on the back of him. Then we had a red flag, and it really denied us this real grandstand finish to the race. And so I had a big complaint about that. Still do to this day.
I agree. It also feels like a cheat code and kind of ruins the race.
It is a shame.
Maybe that's a bold statement.
I can understand why the rule is there. I just don't like it.
Yeah, agreed.
But beyond that, started writing for a couple of small websites that were emerging in the growing F1 Twitter space, like in the very early days of F1 Twitter. And then I ended up joining the Autosport Young Writer Academy thing. It never really had an official name, but it was, it was a training ground for future autosport correspondents, and they stuck me on, some club racing for the magazine. And that was my first sort of proper voyage into actual motorsport journalism, alongside doing some Formula E stuff with a different website where I was going to about half the races in the year. Again, we're talking about like the early days of Formula E, from around like season 2 to season 5. Then I got a job in PR. That was my first full-time job. And then after that, commentary positions started creeping up, and eventually took the plunge into just doing that.
And before that, had you done anything on camera or with your voice?
I've been podcasting a little bit. So I would say regular. Now I jump on whenever I can, which is not very often. But back in the day, I was a regular on the Missed Apex Formula One podcast, and sort of led the revival of the Formula E show that we have as well. But again, that is becoming fewer and far between with just the growing demands on my time, sadly.
Yeah, you're a man in demand. And how did the commentary come about in terms of you taking that plunge into, okay, I'm going to give this a go? Were you really confident with it straight off the bat? What was the introduction into calling races like?
Well, so my introduction to sort of how to actually do commentary was because of my club racing correspondence for Autosport, because I basically spent weekends with one of the country's best commentators from the 750 Motor Club, and he taught me everything that he knew about commentary. And it was but it was still a massive coincidence that I even started doing it, because my podcast put on some karting events, and the host of the show, Spanners, brought speakers and a sound system, because we were doing a live recording there. But after we did the live recording, he shoved the speakers outside, gave me a microphone, and went, go on, talk into that for a little bit. And so I was just talking about, we had all the heats and the finals and all this, and just sort of putting into practice everything I'd seen over the last couple of years and everything I'd been taught. And people started coming up to me afterwards being like, you're actually really good at this. Am I? Oh, okay. That's good to know. But even then, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a commentator now.
Okay.
I think the first thing I did after like the karting stuff was the Simply Race Endurance series.
Okay.
So I went down there and did a 12-hour race there for them. Probably got paid like 100 quid for it. And then just those kind of opportunities started coming up more and more, but I turned most of them down. Because it interfered with my, full-time job. So we're talking, I did like 2 or 3 max a year.
Wow.
But I cobbled together some clips that I had and made something of a show reel from the from the karting and the esports stuff, and sent it off to the agency that now represents me, and just sort of oh, hey guys, so I've got some clips here if you want to like take a look at them. It was no big deal if you don't like them.
I'm guessing that was over email, so the voice is just how you imagined sounding.
Yeah, exactly. That was my internal dialogue at the time. And they came back and went, yes, we'd love to represent you. And I went, really? Why? Okay, sure. And then it all took off from there.
Yeah, I think sometimes you really just have to take a jump, even if you don't fully believe in yourself, and just put yourself out there, and, look where you are now. So I think it definitely paid off. When you were first, I guess, finding your feet when you were commentating, was there anything that you learned or picked up that you remember that sticks in your mind?
The biggest early lesson, I think, is how to actually use your voice and how to preserve it, because people maybe think you rock up, you do your one race, and then you go home. That's not how 95% of sports broadcasting works. You're there for the entire day, calling multiple qualifying sessions, multiple races. Usually it's an all-day job, and your average labor law doesn't really apply to motor racing. So it's not like you clock in at 5, clock in at 9, sorry, and clock out at 5. You can be there from 8 o'clock and you can be there till 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I mean, I think I did a day earlier this year where I got to the circuit at 8, left at midnight. So you really do have to look after yourself, but also it's about not necessarily increasing the volume when things get interesting. It's about showing excitement without actually straining your voice too much. I think that was a really important thing to learn early on.
I'm so fascinated by it because it really is such an art. And I think, so I grew up doing a lot of singing, and I know a lot about preserving the vocal cords and looking after your voice for singing, but I guess I kind of didn't really think that much about it. But of course you do, because your voice is your main tool. So is there anything specific that you do when prepping for a race weekend or over a race weekend that helps you not feel as tired vocally?
I feel like I'm still learning it, to be honest, because I did theatre as a teenager. I did theatre studies at A level, and they kept saying, "Oh, speak from your stomach rather than from your throat." And they made it sound like it was I could just flip a switch inside my body as if to where my voice was coming from. And it was like, you keep telling me, oh, just speak from your stomach. You're like, how do I do this? I'm still figuring it out. So sometimes I come away from a day being like, oh God, I've pushed too hard. And other days I feel great. But I think it's main thing, plenty of fluids. That really helps as well. And just really pacing yourself in terms of what you're actually seeing on the screen. And then, just making sure that I think that the volume is definitely the easiest way to, I guess, modulate what you're actually vocalizing.
And do you find it difficult working with new co-commentators? Do you have, obviously, you'll have people that you are good friends with or that know very well. So when you're calling a race together, you just have sort of a harmony that you just sink into. But is there sort of a way that you work best with others?
I don't think so. I think the most difficult thing about working with a new commentator is obviously just finding your rhythm together
Mm.
and picking up on all the non-verbal cues. Because so I do, commentator cam videos on my Instagram, and people are surprised at the sort of non-verbal communication, which is really the only way you can communicate with your co-commentator. There is a button on our mixers that would enable me to talk to my co-commentator directly without it going onto the program.
Yeah.
But we would try and keep that to a minimum, really, because there's already a kind of enough traffic going through our ears, especially with the TNT stuff, because we've got all the program director, you've got the director, you've got the producer in your ear for quite a bit of it as well. So anything you can do to alleviate some of that traffic, it just helps, because also talking while being talked at is also that is
beast.
a skill. That's a skill in of itself, and one I'm still trying to get the hang of. I think, because when I joined TNT this year, suddenly the amount of traffic in my ears just absolutely shot up massively, because they're counting me down to cue points, or they're counting me into breaks and things like that. And so suddenly I've got to keep talking while someone's talking at me, but also time my talking to the right point now as well.
When you say it like that, it sounds impossible. So talk me through, talk me through the kind of thing that you hear in your ears when you're commentating.
Okay, so with TNT, for example, with the British Superbike stuff, it's actually much simpler, because we no longer do ad breaks in the middle of races. Big hooray. So that means that no longer in the middle of a race am I going to suddenly get break in 30 seconds. And then 15 seconds later, break in 15, and then break in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. But that's the kind of stuff you would normally get. When I did Le Mans, for example, that was this kind of stuff you were getting coming in and out of breaks. For those longer races as well, you'll also get cue points, which is basically they want to have a nice clean break in the audio to do highlights on. Every now and again, you might get that as well. But there is, for the British Talent Cup, for example, when we're on the British Superbike weekend, we're not just going out onto the program, because the British Talent Cup is a Dorna promoted series. It's part of the official MotoGP, road to MotoGP. So it goes out on their platforms as well. And so we've got a dual cast here. We've got something that's going out on our program in a slightly different way. So there'll be stuff happening on the British Talent Cup broadcast that is happening during the TNT ad break, for example. And then we've got to then time it so that, right, you've run through the highlights of race one, and now we're gonna get pause, come out of ad break, and intro the show again. And that's stuff you're trying to keep on top of. And to be fair, it's worse for the people in the gallery than it is for me. They're the ones I feel kind of sorry for most of the time.
The timing of it all is, it's a bit nuts. What's been the biggest thing that's helped you get to grips with being able to talk and time your speech whilst you've got people talking in your ears?
You just got to practice. You just got to practice. I'll generally have one of my headphones off my ear. It helps you hear your own voice a little bit better, because obviously I'm hearing my voice through my headset anyway, but that's also where all the other traffic is coming from, right? So just having one open ear that isn't being blasted with all the other talk and is mainly just listening to yourself, that kind of helps you focus more on what you're saying and pushes everything that's being told to you more into your own sort of internal background, I think.
Okay.
And to the point you're still processing it, but you're not necessarily listening, processing, done. It's more just it's a bit more, I guess, automated.
Subconscious, yeah.
Yeah, more of a subconscious effort,
Hmm.
and to be honest, that's all thanks to my colleagues as well. Because at the start of the year, when I did the first one I did for TNT was the Moto Le Mans 24 Hours, so the motorcycle, 24 de motos, as we are officially supposed to call it. And I was so like, I'm not used to cue points. I'm not used to all this chat in my ear, and oh god, I was panicking. And Tom Gamel said, right, just come, for the first stint, just come and sit in the commentary box, just have some headsets on, and you can just listen to what it's actually gonna be like. And I am a massive overthinker. If there's one thing that people should know about me, is that I'm an overthinker, and I will panic a lot about things I didn't really need to panic about. Because as soon as I was in there, I was like, oh yeah, I can do this 100%. And somehow, as much as I recognize that, I still never fully learned the lesson, because I panicked about Le Mans as well for 3 days while I was there on site before going on air. 3 days of pure panic before actually getting on the mic.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult not to overthink things and come up with different scenarios, especially when you're live on air and broadcasting. It's a lot of pressure. So, how have you found commentating versus the other presenting work that you've done? Because I guess they're two kind of different things. You've done a bit of pit lane reporting, is that right?
Yeah, that's the pit lane reporting stuff's actually really quite easy, actually, because you're a little bit more on the clock, but also I'm doing a lot less work, I guess, because generally I'm just there to get information from the drivers, and that's something I'm actually quite good at because I was a journalist for several years.
Because skills go hand in hand.
So I feel like I use those skills whenever I'm at the racetrack, regardless of whether I'm there for commentary, pit reporting, pre-grid interviews, or anything. It is a lot of the same skill set in terms of gathering information, and so it's much. I find it much easier to do the like the post-race interviews and the pre-grid stuff. You've just got to be aware of your timing, so to speak, because also you'll have to fill a little bit as well. You'll like be eyeing up a driver, and you'll be like, can I get in? Can I get in? Can I get in? You know how sort of Martin Brundle in his grid walk sort of sits there
Yeah.
waiting patiently, like he's taking a ticket from the cheese counter, and you have to sort of vamp for 20 seconds. I seem to be able to do that quite well. I can chat
Just fill the
nonsense,
space.
yeah, for a really long time.
That's a good thing. And I guess it all comes down to preparation, knowing your stuff, having that conversation and talking points in the back pocket so that you're ready to just chat through whenever you do have that space. But one thing for me, since doing a little bit more presenting work, has been name pronunciation that I'm always really conscious of getting
Oh
right.
yeah.
That's a big one for me because obviously I don't want to pronounce someone's name wrong, especially not to their face. Is there anything that you make sure you have nailed in your preparation pre-race weekend?
Preparation pre-race, I always make sure I have the sort of career highlights, of every driver. You should have notes on every single driver. In what I do, which is, more sort of GT and prototype racing, there are going to be some drivers who have no information out there at all. Like a lot of the bronze drivers, for example, the
Yeah.
gentleman racers,
Yeah.
who, they could be in their first season of racing ever,
Mm.
for but then it's always really nice to have their other backgrounds as well. Like, was it Ryan Hardwick, who races in WEC in the Manthey Porsche, is like an ex jet ski world champion and things like
It's
that.
crazy side quests.
I love those bits of information. So yeah, you'll have the sort of general highlights of them, anything interesting. I find, home country, your nationality and sort of place of birth, I guess, or hometown, age, which is always important to have. I think it's always really great to contextualize when you've got like, oh, this kid's 16 and he's winning his first race, and
Yeah, true.
or this guy's in his mid-20s and he started racing. Everyone's got this different story, so it's just making sure you know everyone's story to the point where you can just knock it off on air. You don't have to know the ins and outs of everybody, especially if you're sort of hopping from championship to championship. When you start to have those longer term things, then you really start to understand people and get to know them, and you I don't know, you meet their parents, or you meet their siblings, or in some cases you meet their kids. And that's the real good stuff. So yeah, it's always just making sure that you've got enough that in the worst case scenario, which is you have a very lengthy red flag, you're not going to be short on talking points. Like really, you will suddenly hear commentators scrambling for their red flag notes, something like that. In the case of, I had a 2-hour red flag in Magello last year because of the weather. That
it's always the rain or something to do with the weather, isn't it?
It was awful because it's one of some of the worst storms I've ever seen in my life. And we tried as much as possible to have our pit reporter, it was Claire Cottingham, that weekend, just sort of running around and like, help us fill the airtime, please. I'm looking at nothing right now.
Bless her, setting her off on loads of little adventures, going up and down the pit lane.
Yeah, she was kind of stuck in the garage as well because the pit lane was flooding.
Oh yeah, of course. If it was raining really badly, then not much you can do apart from pop in and see how everyone's doing.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But then there was another one. I was on the other end of it a couple of weeks ago, actually, at Brands Hatch. We had a bit of a nasty incident on the track during a club weekend, and it was about an hour red flag. And so I was just running into garages, shoving a microphone in people's faces, and they're like, "Oh, tell me your story then." So
yeah,
it goes both ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you find it difficult? I guess it's probably becoming easier and easier with the more experience that you get, but do you find it difficult balancing entertainment with facts? So knowing when to be, commentating on the action versus giving the viewers context on the driver or rider and their career and things like that.
So I never set out to be particularly entertaining. For me, the facts are the important thing. For me, I do take
maybe entertainment is the wrong word. Action on track, then.
Okay. I was going to say, because I take the mick out of drivers a lot. Like this racing driver attitude. Like every time someone flashes their lights, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's added another 20 horsepower, isn't it?" So no, you will be in the middle of a context thing, and then suddenly someone like the leader will go off, and you've got to switch it up real quick. But generally, you learn how to read a race, and that is something I think I'm pretty good at, is understanding fully what is happening in a race, what is actually unfolding, and what potentially will unfold as well. So you'll know, like, if the leaders, there's like half a second between them or quarter of a second, whatever, and they're coming up to a corner that is an overtaking opportunity, this is not the time to dive into and of course they are currently sitting 7th in the championship after what has been a very difficult season for them. And like, no, focus on the here and now. You'll know the filler moments when you see them.
Yeah. And something for me as a viewer, I love watching racing, but sometimes, depending on which broadcast and which series, etc., that you're watching, there can be a lot of emphasis on the drivers up front and what's happening in the lead of the race, which obviously it's important. You want to know who's going to be on the podium, etc. But sometimes there's really interesting midfield or lower field battles that I think get missed out on. So as a commentator, do you get guidance to focus on certain cars or bikes, or are you sort of just doing it intuitively based on what you're seeing on the screens?
You're basically just going off of what's on the screens. Sometimes I will, especially if it's multi-class, that is really the only time I will point attention towards potentially something that is not being displayed on the screen. So say in GT Open, for example, we have 3 classes: your Pro, Pro-Am, and Am. If the overall battle is sort of done, I'll check down the timing screen, see what's happening with the Pro-Am battle, and I might just mention it, like, oh, by the way, this is just what's been happening in Pro-Am. So and so has taken the lead there, and you might even sometimes try and steer the gallery towards
Yeah.
that as well. You say, oh, so and so is catching the leader at a rate of 2 seconds a lap. So yeah, in a couple of laps, we should expect a battle there, and because they're listening to it, right? And so hopefully they're making a mental note of that and keeping an eye on that as well, because they've obviously got a lot going on. So you can try and help to steer them in the right direction as well. But otherwise, I think, especially when we're talking about like lower formula, for example, or things that are just one class, you want to focus on what's happening up front.
Yeah.
You want to be focusing on the people who are potentially going to be in Formula One in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Um, unless, like, for some reason in the last round, a championship battle was taking place in 15th for whatever reason. Like, we have had this. We had
Yeah.
at the end of the GT Open season last year, we had like the top two in the championship fighting over 18th place at one point.
So
And
rogue,
that's
isn't
what
it?
happens. It is weird. I mean, they both eventually moved up towards the front, but in the early stages of the race, we're like, here's our top two in the championship. They're fighting for 18th at the moment. What's
Brilliant.
going on? So yeah, it's all contextualized, but generally, yeah, you want to focus on what's up at the front of the field.
Yeah. And have you had any specific moments, kind of like you were mentioning with red flags and stuff on air, that have got you stumped, that you've struggled with, or that you've had like a really funny moment that springs to mind?
Difficult stuff is if you get a mixed condition race, because a lot of series will not have the tire information readily available to you. So again, I'm going to reference GT Open round, but at Monza last year, it was drying up and we had no clue who's on wets, who's on slicks. And so I just had to look at the body language of the cars in the first lap and just theorize, basically. And we had, it was the James Kell in the Greystone McLaren shot up from like 8th to 1st in 3 corners.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, right, okay. So I know that the majority of the field are on one tire and he's on a different one, but which one is he on?
Yeah.
So in the end, we were able to work it out in the end. But that information is just not readily available to you. That generally becomes a struggle.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed when I went to Le Mans, because I'm still understanding more about the world of endurance racing, and tires are nowhere near as talked about as they are in the likes of single-seater open wheel racing in the formulas. And yeah, it was interesting. I learned a lot that weekend. But speaking of Le Mans, you called Le Mans this year. Congratulations. What an incredible opportunity.
Thank you.
How did that come about? Tell me the story.
So because I started working for TNT this year, which again was a complete, I don't want to say fluke, but it happened because Tom Brooks, who normally does the job that I've been doing on the British Superbike Championship, which is some of the support classes, he had a lot of clashes this year and recommended me as his stand-in, which is very good of him, I must say. And so suddenly I'm getting, can you come into the studio? Can you come and do a screen test? I'm like, yes, okay. And they asked me, are you free on these dates? And then the thing is with everything, you say yes, and then you
figure it out
just work
later.
everything else out later. That'll come up again, I'm sure, at some point over Le Mans, because there was a lot of times I just said yes to things. And so I was also, again, this is brutally honest of me, I was very lucky that Le Mans this year clashed with Formula One, IndyCar, and NASCAR, and probably some other stuff as well, because it meant that the likes of Alex Jakes, Will Buxton, Lee Diffie, all the people you would normally expect to see on a Eurosport Le Mans broadcast were unavailable. And so I think eventually they kept going down the list until they got to me and went, he'll do.
No, you need to give yourself more credit than this. Let's big you up. You wouldn't have got the gig if you weren't very talented, hardworking, and great at what you do. So
this is true. I would like to think that. But also I'm not, too nonplussed about it. I think most of the people who go anywhere, they all get their breaks in situations like this.
Mm.
Where like, oh, I was asked to fill in for someone on a championship, and then 7 steps later, that gets you to Le Mans, which has been a dream of mine to do since I started commentating. And so it was a very like bizarre experience. So 4 weeks before Le Mans, then I got asked to do it. The head of motorsport was with us on a BSB weekend at Donington Park and sort of set me aside and said, "Are you free for Le Mans?" "Well, I'm always free for Le Mans. Are you up to speed on WEC?" Like, yeah, I'm up to speed on as many series as I possibly can be. That's, part of what I do. And then, yeah, suddenly it was, okay, you're going to Le Mans. And then it was a whirlwind, absolute whirlwind, because then I spent the next 4 weeks just straight preparation and not really thinking about much else, to be honest.
Did you have any race weekends to work in between finding out and actually being there?
Yeah, all of them.
Was your prep rewatching races, doing lots of research? How did that look?
It was mainly making sure that I had, like what we were talking about earlier, I need something on every driver.
Mm-hmm.
And there are 186 drivers at Le Mans, so that took a while.
How many pages of notes are we talking? A whole book?
Oh God, I've got them somewhere.
Keep them forever.
I think maybe 4 or 5 pages per class.
Wow.
So
Okay.
maybe, yeah, about 15
you need to be able
pages.
to locate the information quite quickly. So if you're looking at loads and loads of pages, then I guess you don't want to be flicking through trying to figure stuff out at the split second when something happens.
It's about making it as simple and easy to read as possible and easy to find stuff as well. But of course, then I turned my attention to all the teams and the specific Le Mans histories of the drivers and the teams, because Le Mans is a landmark event where you are going to have your separate stats for Le Mans. Like there will be a few. We had so many rookies as well. We had something ridiculous like 34 Le Mans rookies on the grid this year as well. So you're working that out, and you're working out this guy's won Le Mans, let's say 3 times with this team in this year, and then with this team, and or a different manufacturer, depending on what class you're in, and or maybe they've won it in different classes as well. There are plenty of the guys in hypercar used to race in GTs, for example, so they've won Le Mans in GTE Pro or AM as it was back in the day. And so you're working on all that, and then you've got all the Le Mans specific rules as well. So the LMP2 cars, for example, they're in a different specification to when they race in the European or Asian Le Mans series.
Yeah.
Then you've got the restart procedure, which is really fun to work out and to explain to an audience who are maybe new to Le Mans. All that extra stuff, basically, which was part of the reason why I was panicking for 3 days when I got there.
Because there's so much new and specific information that needs to be told in a succinct and easy to understand way.
And succinct is the important thing, because I was taught at Autosport to write with great efficiency. You want to say as much as you possibly can with as few words as possible, because you think you only get like 500 words for a race report, for example. Or if I was lucky, I got 800 words, a 2-page spread for an entire weekend of racing. So we're talking, what's happened in 10 different championships in 800 words. So that's when you really need to pick and choose like what's worth reporting on. But also, working out how to say as much as you can with as little as possible.
Pause on that. How on earth did you manage to do that? Was it just like cut things down so it was like driver good, driver bad? Like how did we do that? Because I struggle to condense my thoughts into really short, sharp sentences because I just love to chat and love to sprinkle in adjectives, which I imagine you couldn't do when you were extremely limited. So how was that?
Yeah, you just no fat on the words at all. Just absolutely trim it down to the necessities. But you would leave a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor.
Mm.
Yeah, you'll judge, which of these championships has got the most competitive grids. Where is there a championship fight? Where did we all just sort of switch our brains off for 20 minutes while this procession happened, and then we don't really need to talk about anything else? Or was there a significant incident or anything like that?
Just the headlines, basically.
Yeah. I mean, the problem I had with the 750 Motor Club was that there was so much great racing going on there, and that was the one thing they warned me. Actually, is like, you'll have this many words on the usual weekend, which is still going to be not enough for the amount of racing you're going to be seeing. But like, what are we going to do? We're not going to fill half a magazine with all this club racing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, back to Le Mans tangents.
Yeah.
So, with all of the different storylines in all of the different classes, how do you keep track of everything in a race that long?
It is hard. Generally, the headline stuff I might take a note of, and recount that back. What's good about having all the notes in front of you on all the different cars is that you can then scribble into that place. So like, oh, this guy ran into this car. These guys have got this penalty, which there was a lot of them at Le Mans this year.
Yeah.
I felt like I spent most of my time on air reading off penalties from race control.
Yeah, and to be honest, it didn't feel like there was a ridiculous amount of action. And I think because the weather wasn't as crazy as it has been in previous years, we were almost lucky in the sense that you could really focus on the racing and the flies.
Oh, the flies. Oh, I've never talked about flies so much in my life. But it was extraordinary. It was like being attacked in an apocalypse movie, walking outside. It was genuinely
They
awful.
stuck to clothes as well, but I remember seeing the video of Claire with the tear off from the windscreen, and it was
That
just
was such
covered.
a great piece.
Yeah, but it really shows that there's so many unprecedented things that can happen at Le Mans that you're just not expecting at all as a viewer or as a team. So to see that and the visibility being an issue and them having to really deeply clean the windscreens to try and reduce the amount of tear off they were just pulling off in the pit stops was an interesting one.
That was, yeah. So we had that unique thing for this year that's never really sort of been a problem before. This year, though, the most competitive class was hypercar, though, because I think we were down to basically two contenders after 4 hours. I think it was we were basically down to two contenders in LMP2 and LMGT3, which made life a little bit easier for us.
Yeah.
And obviously they want to put more focus on the hypercar stuff anyway, because it's what people are mainly tuning in for, especially Le Mans, where you have a larger portion of people who aren't tuned in to work full time and are maybe F1 fans who are a little bit curious about some other stuff, or people who don't even watch racing in general and just flicking through what's on the sports channels on that day. So you got to accommodate for everyone, really. And the most competitive class this year was the hypercar class, and that was we spent more time actually talking about the team orders between the works Ferrari cars and the customer car that ended up winning the race, and then also debating about whether Robert Kubica could legally go to the end of the race. But he got that call with 2.5 hours to go. Like, you've already done 2 hours inside the car. Can you go to the end? It's 2.5 hours. And we were sat there, hang on a minute, I'm not sure he actually can. But I think they were just on the right side of that particular regulation. But that's kind of endurance racing through and through. You're not talking so much about, oh, look at that, they're side by side and brilliant, and look at that, another lead change, because they're not happening all the time in endurance racing. And so you're trying to convey the story of the race and educate the viewer as well. And actually, what I found I ended up doing, I was more just sort of orchestrating the people next to me, the ex-drivers and the former engineers, who actually know what they're talking about. And that's so nice for me, because up until this year, I had never had like proper color commentary before, where I've got like an actual ex-driver or ex-rider or ex-engineer or former team principal, whoever it may be, alongside me in the commentary box. In everything else I've done, I've had to be the lead and also try and provide as much insight as I can from what drivers tell me, or from what I've the very limited experience I have in racing, which boils down to go-karts and sim racing. So it's so nice to just be able to orchestrate a couple of people next to me. And once you get two racing drivers like going, that's it. That's go.
Yeah, because they have so much knowledge and they're so passionate. It's so insightful as a viewer to just sit and listen because you get a new perspective on things. So I bet that was really interesting.
I think it's unusual for drivers. Not unusual. They don't get the opportunity very often to like properly nerd out about what they do. And like, no, you don't understand. It's because I'm doing this micro movement in the steering wheel, and then this button here, this is what that does. And if you move the tow bar by 0.0004 millimeters, then this is what happens to the car. They don't get the opportunity to do that because whenever they're racing and they get asked the same 4 questions by a journalist all the time. And so to actually like really get into the nitty gritty about what is going on behind the wheel or what's going on in the engineering side of things, like that's the good stuff.
Yeah, you just get a different understanding of the race through their lens and through their voice. But of course, a lot of them will need guiding by commentators like yourself to be able to articulate those points and get that knowledge out of them in the right way. And obviously your background in journalism helps a lot with that. Do you see that coming through a lot in your commentary work, your journalistic skills?
100%. If I've got someone, like I had Joe Osborne, Ollie Webb, Alex Brundle, Lena Gade, the first female race engineer to win Le Mans with Audi, and Tom Christensen. That was a pinch me moment.
What a lineup!
Like suddenly I'm like, oh, standing next to Tom Christensen. How you
Royalty.
doing, sir? Well, yeah, exactly. A lot of them, because they've been doing it for so long, they don't need much help from me. But Danny Buchan, who's my co-commentator on the British Superbike Championship, this is his first year. Like, he retired at the end of last year, so he's not used to doing this kind of thing. And I just sort of gave him some pointers about it. But he's got a sort of natural gift for yapping on about bike racing, to be honest. So he doesn't need too much help in that front. But the journalism skills I find I use most often is when I'm not in the commentary box and I'm in the paddock, which is where you will find me if I'm not on air. I say I'm getting information. I'm maximizing the amount of time you have at a racetrack because it is limited. And so poke my head into a garage and chat to a driver and just get the information that I need. And the more context you can possibly gather, the better your broadcast is going to be, because you need that information out there. A bit like, oh yeah, for some reason, like the tires are being absolutely chewed up this weekend. Like, bang, talking point right there. Can go on about that for ages. Track limits at this particular corner. Oh, that's being talked about an awful lot. We're struggling particularly with this, and I find the most important is actually after the race. Like if you've got 2 races on a weekend, like one on a Saturday, one on a Sunday, which is how most of the racing I do has ended up working out, is to get all that post race 1 debrief, because you'll see this guy like, we finished 7 seconds off the leader in second place, but we had a front wishbone failure on lap 1, and like, oh, okay, so that's actually, like, you've done amazingly then, and you would have absolutely romped it if that hadn't happened. It's little bit things like that. I've exaggerated the front wishbone thing. That would be race ending, but like the little things.
But in principle,
like that.
Yeah.
And especially at a certain level of racing as well. Sorry.
Good. Go for it.
At some levels of racing as well, you'll get people who sort of rock up on the Saturday morning as well for one reason or another. Like I had a driver in Euroformula last year was sitting exams on the free practice day, so he rocked up into qualifying having done no laps, and going into his weekend. And then we had someone in the BSB earlier this year who was like, oh yeah, I was testing for a different manufacturer in Spain on Friday, and then I arrived back in the UK at 2:00 this morning, and now here I am. Like that stuff like that. That's juicy stuff to add into your broadcast.
Interesting. And do you find that you get more information from your experience from drivers or team personnel?
Usually you go straight to the drivers. you tend not to bug the mechanics or the engineers too much unless they are more senior, especially because you can get into trouble for saying the wrong thing to
Okay.
like a media person. And even though most of the time, unless you're working for a specific broadcaster, then you are usually employed by the championship or the owners of the championship. And so that there's a weird sort of blurred line thing there, really, which is like, you're just talking to an employee of the championship, but also at the same time, I have the ability to tell everyone who's watching what you've just told me. So you would generally avoid talking to just specific mechanics, and you would go to their engineers or team managers, or to the drivers themselves.
It really is a sport of a lot of secrets, isn't it?
100%, 100%. And the further up you go, the harder it is to get access to these people. Because I am so used to just being able to waltz into a garage and just be like, "Oh, where's Fabian Schiller at? Where's he? Come and have a chat with him." Right? At Le Mans, you are so controlled as to like where you are allowed to be, to the point where me as a TV person didn't initially have access to the media center. Right? There is literally
Wow.
there is like it's like they'll split the paddock and the support paddocks up into as many sort of little micro ecosystems as they possibly can, and keep them as separate as possible. The other end of that as well at Le Mans is that that's the only track I've ever been to, or the only event I've ever been to, where there's bouncers outside the garage stopping people from coming in.
And
And
there's
it's like,
already
technically,
bouncers to get into the paddock, and there's bouncers
yeah.
then on the media center door, and like security everywhere.
And I kind of get it, because Le Mans, like 500,000 people rock up at Le Mans during the week, and you've got to keep those people separate. But at the same time, me then being in the paddock and then not being able to like walk 15 feet forward into the garage does seem a little bit excessive, especially because these teams, they're growing further and further into the paddock. They've got all these like extra little pop-up buildings that they do now, and so the only time you can actually speak to a driver is if you doorstep them on the way out into like hospitality or something, and even then they're not really going to be that talkative to you. So you really have to like book your time with them at the higher level, whereas in every other championship I do, I just walk up to them and just be like, "Oh, you're right, how's it going?"
So I guess it's a different setup completely for higher level races like Le Mans. The nature of Le Mans is crazy, unpredictable, and obviously long hours, given that it's a 24-hour race. So logistically, how did that work for you? When were you getting your sleep in? When did you eat? What was the schedule like in terms of time on air and off air?
Well, so I spent I spent 3 days panicking about what I was going to do when I actually got on the mic. Saturday morning arrived, and to be honest, we didn't really need to be at the track until 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, because Le Mans is a 4 p.m. start. We went on air at 3. So yeah, I didn't have to get in at the time I did. But again, me overthinking, panicking about what I was going to do that afternoon, got there earliest possible opportunity. And I was just there going over everything that I had done. And I'm so grateful to the support of my colleagues throughout that, because I must have been an absolute pain during that week. But the support from them was wonderful, and they constantly had positive feedback for me, which is very reassuring. What was it? I think about 2 hours before we went on air, I got asked. So I was initially going to be closing out our program at 1 in the morning. So the way we did it on TNT this year was we took the world feed during the night for 5 hours between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Okay.
And so I was going to be closing out the show at 1 o'clock. Then the world feed would take over. And I was then, I think, due to be back on air at 9 in the initial schedule. And then I think about 2 hours before we went on air, I got asked, can you come back on at 6 and reopen the program there? Because we only had myself and Ben Constanduros as the leads. We had lots of, pundits, but only me and Ben as leads. And Ben was having to work on another championship that morning, actually, in Japan. Remotely, of course, but Japanese time schedule. So it was on in the early hours of the morning, so he was unavailable. And I did, and again, like I said earlier, you say yes, you figure it out later, right? And then it wasn't until later on in the day that I thought, okay, hang on a minute. So if I come off air at 1, that means at best I'm going to be back at the hotel at 2, because traffic getting out of Le Mans at, after the fireworks show and in the middle of the night, that's the busiest time. So traffic, and the hotel was about half an hour away anyway. And I thought, right, okay, but then if I'm back on at 6, that means I need to be back at the track at 5, really. Okay, so that means I have to get up at 4, really, and even then that might be pushing it. So really, I'm looking at about 2 hours sleep if I get lucky with the traffic, and if I fall asleep the second I get back into the hotel. Okay, this isn't looking too great. And I was asking around that we had RVs.
I was going to say, were you not tempted to just stay on site?
Well, right. So that was going to be my plan. We did have RVs on site, and initially there wasn't any more space in them. Like, they were already packed with, the other presenters. And so I was fully ready to just take all the couch cushions we had, stuff them under a desk somewhere, and just sleep it, because that's what you do at Le Mans.
Yeah.
You see how most of the mechanics sleep during the 24-hour, and drivers
with a helmet on and the visor down.
Genuinely, you just find a space where you can fall asleep and just sleep there. Like, this is not the luxury, of motor racing that we all proclaim motor racing has, because actually 90% of the time it doesn't.
Yeah.
And especially at Le Mans, when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you've got 2 hours to get some kip. But I got very lucky. About 9 o'clock, they said, we've got space in an RV. I'm going to show you where it is and the key code and all this, right? So I did manage to get, I think, 3.5 hours sleep during the night. So started at 3. I think I said my first words at 3:40 during the build-up, which was like the handing off of the flag to Roger Federer, who's the starter this year. And then I think I did the first commentary about 2 or 3 hours into the race. Did a few hours there. Did my night shift up until 1. Came back on at 6. Did about an hour and a half there. Got 1 hour to go and get breakfast. Then came back on for another 3 hours, I think it was. And then I think I had one more 2-hour stint in the early afternoon. And Ben took us to the finish. So there was a lot of switching on and off, especially first thing I did when I woke up on the Sunday morning was find out what happened in the night.
Yeah, the FOMO is real.
Yeah. Well, also because other people haven't seen it either, and you've got to be aware, like, why is this car suddenly not in the race? What happened to the leader during the night?
Yeah,
like that's happened. So you need to get those cliff notes. There wasn't actually anything too terribly dramatic in the night this year, I don't think, off the top of my head, but the worst thing about it is that you are running on empty. You are so tired. And I remember thinking at the time, what I was saying was like Shakespeare, like, how can I compare thee to a summer's day? And then I watched it back, which was the mistake, because, oh my God, I was talking nonsense.
Gibberish.
The one that sticks in my head so much, and probably to anyone listening, they probably didn't even think about it, but to me this dug in so deep. There was contact, and one of the Fords ran into another car, and I was trying to work out which of the Fords it was, which this is how tired I was. I'd already forgotten that the other Ford in the race was already out because its wheel fell off at Tête Rouge. So I should have already known. No, yeah, it's that one. But I was looking at it and I was like, okay, it's the one with the white front on it. Okay, good. And what I ended up saying on air was, oh, it's the front-nosed car. And I'm like, well, of course it's front nose. What do you want about, you moron? And so there was little things like that really ended up like grating me. And I said some other really like stupid thing. Oh, I welcomed Timo Bernhard to the pit lane rather than the commentary box at one point as well.
He's suddenly teleported.
Yeah. And like suddenly, oh, we're actually in the pit lane, Timo. This is as close to the action as we were allowed to get.
Are we?
No, it was, yeah, stupid stuff like that. Which again, yeah, probably people who were tuning in didn't really bat an eyelid.
No.
But I was mortified when I watched it back.
How much of it did you watch back?
Oh, all of it.
Really? And what were your thoughts? Do you find it quite easy to listen back to yourself, or were you sat there with toes curled, just like, oh, I know something happens here that I wasn't that happy with, or
Yeah, I do that. No, usually when I come back from a race weekend, straight in the ice bath and watch the match back. So
such an athlete.
Yeah. No, I do generally watch back most of my races, generally for the commentary cam clips as well. So
Oh, of course, yeah.
I want the good stuff, but also I massively self-critique like all the time, and I want to watch back the broadcast and see, okay, is there anything that, like, with a slightly different lens on, or I'm not thinking about as many things, like, is there anything we should have maybe done differently in terms of the broadcast overall? So I'll always go back and watch as many things that I've done as I can back for my own benefit, but also to try and see if we can do things slightly differently.
Yeah, it must be difficult though, finding the balance between being self-critical and learning from it, or being self-critical and feeling down about it and sort of going over and over things in your head. How do you find that healthy balance?
I'm probably not the right person to ask, because I think I did that too much in my other careers, to be honest, and that's maybe why I lost faith in my ability to do them. But I think I have learned from that, and you can't change it, so there's no point now getting upset about it. Like, the only thing you can do is do it better next time. And I always really like Nicky Lauda's philosophy on this. Really, like, I learned more from my defeats than I ever did from winning.
Yeah.
So, like, that's how you learn things.
And it's so difficult to not feel down about it when you know you could have done a better job. I'm the same. I'll watch things back and I'll kick myself for it. I know in so many of my interviews, even the first set of podcasts I did, I'm quite an active listener, and I'm quite expressive, and I say, yeah. But obviously you can't do that in an interview, because that's so annoying, especially in long form. And I've really had to be strict with myself and, like, keep reminding myself to stop making noises and stop reacting verbally.
So I'm probably going to ruin any future broadcast that is gonna involve me, but I will. I use as well an awful lot. It's like a filler thing that I say while I'm trying to gather my next
thought. I did it again.
But it's everyone's guilty of it though. That's the thing, and I don't know. I feel like I need to, like, take a punishment every time I say as well in a broadcast where it's not necessary. And I have tons of those little things, and I'm really trying to get over them.
Yeah,
but it's difficult. It is difficult,
and people won't notice it anywhere near as much as you think they do. There's so many filler words that I notice in other people now, because I'm conscious of it myself. Kinda is a really big one across the board, whether that's in corporate working, in meetings when people are explaining things, or whether that be in presenting work. Kinda is a big one, and it's one that I'm trying to avoid. And obviously an is a big one as well. So
yeah, I hate how much I really need to work on that, because the silence is better.
It is, but it feels uncomfortable.
Yeah, kind of. It sounds like you don't really know what you're going to talk about, but then the kind of does the same thing anyway. So you may as well have the silence, because
it's a lose-lose.
The good thing about racing is quite a lot of ambient noise involved in it anyway. So I think it's quite nice.
One way of putting it.
Yeah, but every now and again, people want to shut up and listen to a V10 for a little bit.
Yeah, that's very true. To wrap up talking about Le Mans, was there any specific moments throughout the weekend or throughout the race that the sheer atmosphere and scale and just historic nature of the race just hit you and you had sort of a pinch me moment?
Um, I don't know if this was necessarily a pinch me moment, but um, I did the atmosphere build up stuff. I was talking about when Federer's being handed the flag, and we're sitting there, and it's all atmosphere, atmosphere. And I came off there because I was like, that was it. I just did my first like 10 minutes of Le Mans, right? And the race hasn't started yet, of course, but I came back, went back into the production office, and I had a voice note from Spanners, the host of my podcast, who's just been the most wonderful supporter of my career in every aspect. And he sent me this voice note that said, Chris, that was top tier A grade broadcasting. And honestly, I welled up. I like was properly on the verge of just bawling out in the middle of the production office because it was just such a nice thing to hear. And what was nice about TNT is because it's TNT in the UK, Eurosports in other nations, and then it's also on HBO Max because it's owned by Warner Brothers. So that meant all my friends in the States were tuning in and listening in as well.
Wow.
And I don't know, it was this real like overwhelming moment of like, man, everyone's tuning in and listening to little old me talk about cars.
That's honestly such an underrated part about doing publicly facing work is having that support network and support system of people around you, whether they're in the industry or not. Just knowing that people are listening, watching, enjoying, supporting, it goes such a long way. Do you have quite a close knit group of people? But obviously you do lots of different series, so you must know so many different people. How does your support network look?
There's a few of us, a few of our loudspeaker lot, because a lot of some of us, we end up going to the same events. So George Morgan, my co-commentator on the GT Open, and Chris McCarthy, who comes to a lot of our rounds for Formula Regional, because we tend to race on the same weekends at the same tracks. And so we've ended up, it's not like boys on tour, but there's a real bond there. And we're always trying to support each other, at the track and away from the track as well, in whatever it may be. For me, the biggest surprise I had of this year was just how much I was going to enjoy working with the British Superbike presenting and commentary teams, to be honest, and the production team as well, because I thought I was just going to sort of come in, do my job, be the sub, and just pootle off home. The way they embraced me, oh my god, I cannot understate what a massive difference that made to me, who again overthinking and being like, oh my god, I'm working in television and it's bike racing and I haven't done anything for bike racing in like 6 years. And again, there was no need for it, and they were so supportive, and they welcomed me like that straight away. I was just part of the team, and the camaraderie, when we're done off air and we all go for dinner afterwards, that is fantastic. The social element of it. I'm so lucky to have this group of people from, when I was a journalist, who I'm still very close friends with. We go on holiday together, and my podcasting lot, my other friends from the industry, and now my new broadcasting friends. I'm so lucky to be surrounded by a swathe of talent, which is incredibly inspiring for myself, and at the same time very, very humbling as well, because sometimes you look at other people and you just go, god, you're so good at what you do. Do you know what I mean? You can just be in awe of some of these people, and I'm always aspiring to do better, and they motivate me to do that.
Wow, it sounds like you've got such an incredible group of people that surround you and lift you up. But you mentioned comparison there. It can be difficult when you see other people doing incredible things to not compare and contrast, and especially if you've got goals and things that you're working towards. How have you managed that in your commentary career so far?
Do you know, I think of David Tennant talked about like the audition process about how you'd be sat outside the audition room with like 20 other people who kind of look like you, and they were like, "Ah, he's better looking than me. Good luck." But I've never really experienced that, because I know that if for one reason or another I don't get a job and someone I know gets it, then I know it's for a reason, and it's a reason that's out of my control 9 times out of 10. So why hold a grudge about it? I'd rather be happier that my friend's doing something that he loves. That hasn't actually been so much that I know that my other friends are going for, to be honest. I don't think it comes up very much, but no, I don't think I would ever begrudge anyone for getting a job, and I would think I would just be happy for them. And I think that's maybe slightly different to how most industries work, especially in racing. Racing is it can be very toxic. It can be very jealous ridden, for a multitude of reasons, across all the different industries, because it's not just the sport. It's television. It is marketing. It is business in general. So there's an awful lot of rivalries going on anyway, and you can choose to look at this quite tight-knit group of people who offer a specific service like we do. You can choose to see them as your enemies, or you can choose to lift each other up, and you're going to need them later on in your life. It doesn't cost anything to be a good person to them. That's always been my philosophy. Maybe someone will straight up, just walk on my heels and step over me, but I don't want to get jobs that way.
Yeah, and you spend a lot of time with these people, so it's
Exactly.
one of those industries where you get to know people really well and you bond, like you said. So I think covering the different series and races that you do, you must spend a lot of time with people, get to know people really well. But speaking of community and speaking of people, let's talk a bit about Racing Pride, because you are an ambassador and they're doing amazing things. So talk to me a little bit about your involvement with Racing Pride and what you get up to with them.
Yeah, so I'm an ambassador for Racing Pride, and I help where I can in Racing Pride's sort of global ambition, which is to improve inclusivity for LGBTQ plus people in motorsport. Overall, just try and make it a better place for those people. And what I really like about it as well is that when you push diversity and inclusion for one group of people, it tends to help other minorities as well. There's a very nice knock-on effect, to be honest. So it is, I think it's a cog in a larger wheel, really. But to do something about motorsport specifically, which does still lag behind other industries, and other sports as well. And it's not just about, sending a tweet out during LGBT History Month or putting up a flag during Pride Month. It's about
changing your profile picture to the Pride flag just for the Pride Month and then changing it back straight after.
Exactly. It's got no bearing whatsoever, right? You want that sticker on the car all year round. Gays aren't just for Christmas, so to speak. What it's about going into teams, organizations, whether circuit organizations or championship organizations or sporting governing bodies, and actually creating a systemic change in their organization by working on their DEI policies and highlighting, really championing the involvement of LGBTQ plus people within motorsport. Because believe it or not, they're there, right? We're there. We're around. You don't know it, but we're there. So I'm bi personally, and I've been walking around with a rainbow tattoo on my arm since I was probably 19, 20. And I tend not to talk about it all that much. And I thought, yeah, maybe I should probably change that. And when something like Racing Pride came along, I was, oh, that's a perfect opportunity, really, if I can help this group of people. Just by, I don't know, whether it's just by telling my story or giving my opinion on something, or talking more about what I do, my story, which is quite a boring one, to be honest, in comparison to some of the other stories. It's not like I rocked up for my first day in the motorsport paddock and people were going, "Oh, what's this faggot doing here?" Like it's not the mid 2000s anymore where, like, I know people where that has happened. I'm very lucky. It's never actually happened to me. I guess I'm like, I look too straight or something. Even though I'm wearing this ridiculous shirt.
It looks great.
I think it looks great.
Yeah,
Most of my shirts do.
I think it's overlooked. The importance of inclusivity is overlooked in sport a lot, but particularly in motorsport, I've noticed, having worked across multiple sports, predominantly football. I mean, that's also quite toxic in terms of championing the LGBTQ plus community. But I think what Racing Pride's doing is amazing, and it really is going straight to the organizations, to the heart of it, and really making a change. How do you see the role of these publicly facing presenters, commentators, team personnel in shaping culture and inclusion and helping to drive it forwards?
Well, I think the ones who are like on camera, probably just by the fact that they're on camera, probably bear the biggest weight in that front, because like I'm a disembodied voice in a race broadcast, right? And listening to it, you wouldn't think, oh yeah, that guy's obviously queer, right? Because it's not like I come up with like some super cliche gay voice, right? No. So the people who are on camera, the ones who are, not straight white men, basically cis straight white men, and so immediately you're championing inclusivity right there, just by having someone who isn't a cis straight white man on that camera. And I know people always say, "Oh, well, what does it matter if they should just be whoever's best at it?"
Best at the job.
Well, it's like, yeah, I know that's what we're doing, because inclusion and improving diversity is scientifically proven to make life better. It's proven to make organizations more successful. And we're having this huge debate in Formula One at the moment about like the cost of racing in general. And people are starting to realize that actually Formula One drivers aren't the best drivers in the world. They're actually the best drivers who could afford to get to Formula One. So that then I think is awakening other, minority plights, so to speak, as well, which were already, we were already hammering on those doors, but now they're starting to open a little bit, and people are starting to peer inside and actually see what it's like on the other side of that door. So I think having them front facing is very important, but also at the same time, it's important to not just shove them out there for the sake of it, and to let it trickle down, because we keep we talk about the inclusivity in a Formula One team, for example, 1,500 people, right? You can't just have the ones who end up talking to the media being your box tickers, right? No, you have to do it systemically. You have to do it for the right reasons. And it's a shame to say, really, that the way to convince them is to say, hey, if you improve your diversity and make your workplace a safe space, particularly for LGBTQ plus people, your car will go faster because you'll have a better workforce, right? Yeah. And it's a shame we have to boil it down to that, but that is kind of reality, really.
Yeah, and I think visibility is so important. And making people aware of other people's identities. You know, there's so many people within racing teams that people won't even know identify as part of the LGBTQ plus community or as queer or whatever they identify as. And I think that understanding that these organizations are creating a safe space so that people in the future are like, okay, I could actually see myself working there, or I know that I would feel comfortable working there. It's just those small things that I think often get overlooked. But I think what you guys are doing at Racing Pride is definitely starting to push the needle.
Oh, I'm glad, and we can see the improvements. Racing Pride's been active for nearly 6 years now, and you can point to so many things that they've done and be like, we made that difference. So it's great to be part of an organization that's doing some good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it definitely wouldn't go amiss across many series. And, I mean, there's so much chatter about how much drivers specifically should be talking about when it comes to personal opinions and beliefs. And I think cash is king in a lot of motorsport, which is a shame. So a lot of them obviously feel perhaps worried or conscious of who they might be offending or upsetting, or if their supporters or sponsors have different beliefs or different opinions on politics, on anything. They've got to be so media trained and they've got to be so neutral in everything. But I definitely think in the way that the world is going and the way that the sport is evolving, that drivers probably will need to start being a little bit more vocal. I don't know how vocal they will get, but I think it's Christian Mansell, Australian driver. He's spoken out for trans rights, and so many people have said, I really respect you for doing that, because a lot of other drivers wouldn't. What are your thoughts and opinions on drivers speaking out about their opinions, whether that be about politics or religion or whatever?
I'd love to see more of it. I really would. I think in general, drivers need to be less robotic. Social media is a great platform now that has allowed drivers to actually showcase them as people and not as marketing machines for their sponsors.
Billboards.
Although, of course, ultimately that's what the social media tool is for. They're just using it in a slightly different way. But I would love to see more of it. I would love people to come out and say, no, this is what we stand for. And what I absolutely loved when Formula One first went to Saudi Arabia, for example, of course, there was a storm, right, about, human rights violations, which is, par for the course. And unfortunately, it's a conversation we're going to have to keep having because Saudi Arabia in particular, the Middle East in general, but especially Saudi Arabia, is having a growing presence in hosting sporting events. And so it's a conversation that a lot of sports are going to have to start having. And this was put so beautifully by Matt Bishop, which was that when Formula One went to Saudi Arabia, they said, we're not going to just leave our political beliefs at passport control. We're going to keep standing for, especially because it was in the middle of the We Racers One, what's the right word for it?
Movement, initiative,
movement, yeah.
campaign.
I was going to say, yeah, it was a bit of a marketing campaign.
Hate to say
but
it,
also,
yeah.
But it was a really nice one as well.
Yeah.
And one I think many of us agreed with. So I think that was particularly important. And people loved Lewis Hamilton for wearing a rainbow helmet, especially in Saudi Arabia. That for me, one of the most powerful images I've ever seen was Lewis Hamilton atop of the car, having one in Qatar and one in Saudi Arabia, wearing that helmet. Because people on Twitter were like, "Oh, I bet he won't wear that in Saudi Arabia." They're like, yeah, he did, and he bloody won the race. So
it was the most important one to wear it at.
I think so, and people loved him for doing that and for his movements. People love Sebastian Vettel for everything he's done as well. And so I don't really understand what the fear is, I mean, I do get the fear. I do get the fear because you're afraid that if you speak up for one thing that people disagree with, you're going to lose those people forever. But there is a growing trend that, especially in, you know, your Gen Zs and your Gen Alphas, that if you don't stand for something, you're not going to get their support. So even if that's the way we have to motivate them to do it, then like if it gets the intended result, then let's motivate them to do that.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Anyways, moving on. Looking ahead to the future, you've obviously achieved so much already, but is there anything that you're looking towards as a goal or a dream gig?
So I said Le Mans was like the dream.
Yeah.
And now I've done it. So
what next?
Yeah, where do you go from there?
There's not really. I don't know where you go from there.
I know exactly. It's the start and the finish of Le Mans.
Okay. Yeah,
that's got to be the one because I only did the middle. I would love to.
No. Pause. We're not reducing it to that, please, Chris. I only did the middle of one of the most historic, iconic races in the world.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for putting me back on that high horse. I would love to do the other major endurance races. Like my favorite races of the year are Le Mans, Nürburgring, which is my number one, Bathurst, Daytona, Spa, 24-hour as well. I would love to do all of those and sort of tick those off. People have always said to me, "Oh, you don't want to do Formula One?" I was like, "Formula One sounds awful."
There must be so many eyeballs on it as well. Like people hyper analyzing and critiquing every word you say.
Exactly. There is an awful lot of that. I think as well, I don't want to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I think to me that's probably part of the problem that most people have with Formula One is that you tune in and it's kind of the same thing you saw last week and the week before that. And because there are so many races in a year now, it's the same as what you saw for the last 4 weeks. Like back when it was every 2 or 3 weeks, you kind of had time to forget about what happened, and it was like, oh, he's won again, good for him. Now it's like, oh god, he's won again.
Turn it off.
So I just imagine like, oh god, imagine being surrounded by the same people all the time. This is probably why I couldn't hold down a 9 to 5. But I like the diversity in what I do. I like jumping between championships. I like seeing different people. I like working with different drivers. That to me keeps it interesting. That to me is the most important thing, because if I start to lose passion for what I'm doing, I'm not going to be good at it. So I am always, I've always also just been more of a fan of these big events over Formula One. I love the big endurance races. I love sports car racing. I love GT racing. I would love to make a little home for myself there.
And are there any ambitions that you have away from motorsport?
Oh, I would like loads. Yeah. Loads.
That wasn't me going, no, like that wasn't me saying you didn't, but I'm just curious.
No, I'm purely driven by my work. No, that's a fair point. Like I have been like 90% focused on my work and I neglect my personal life because like hidden secret about working in motor racing is that you end up having very little personal life.
Yeah. Because
you think, when do you see your friends? You see them on a weekend. Oh, but I'm working. So.
And then when you have time off, everyone else is working. So.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a group of friends now who are all freelancers because yes, we can all afford to say on a random Thursday afternoon at 2:00, do you want to go to the pub and play pool? Yes, because we can. It's brilliant.
Hell yeah.
So that doesn't happen every week, by the way. That was I think I've done it twice this year. But no, ambitions. God, I'd love to see the Northern Lights. That is something
me too.
I have been wanting to do for ages. And just these. I've thought about it for years, and a proper solar eclipse as well.
Interesting.
So I am fascinated by astronomy. Absolutely, I love space. Space is freaking awesome. All right,
it's
like
fascinating.
We're so forget everything that's going on down here with our imaginary lines in the sand that define political borders. No. What's going on out there? Like that's infinite everything. And it's so cool. And I've never seen a proper solar eclipse, because even there's been like a couple. I think there's been 3 solar eclipses in my lifetime in the UK that have been visible from the UK, and probably one I was probably 1 year old, and then the other 2 it was too cloudy to see anything because this is the UK. So next year there is another solar eclipse on the, I think it's the 12th of August, and I've already booked it in my calendar because I know it's a Tuesday. So I'm like, oh my god, I'm not going to be at a racetrack on a random Tuesday in August, am I? I'm going to go. And so I looked at best places to go and see it. It's either Iceland or Spain.
Okay, one of them
And
slightly closer than the other.
one of them is
But
slightly closer.
one's more
But
exciting, perhaps.
I was going to say, I've never been to Iceland. Like,
No, I would love to go.
awesome. It sounds really cool. You might even get to go and see the Northern Lights there as well. So I could double up on that.
That
Also,
sounds like a pretty fun trip.
it does. It sounds awesome. Absolutely love it. Another trip that I've been planning on taking is I love narrowboating.
Oh,
My
interesting.
my grandparents used to take me when I was a kid, and there's something nice about having a relaxing holiday like on the water that is just about active enough to keep me engaged so that I don't
Get
feel like
bored.
crap for not doing anything.
Mm.
Well, yeah, actually, bored is the main thing as well, because I could never like lie on a beach or lie by the pool or anything like
No,
that.
no, neither could I.
No.
No, I'm a big reader, so I get
Okay.
sucked into books, so I can do that. But if I wasn't into reading, I wouldn't be able to.
No, that's fair. And it's not that I don't read. It's just that,
You read
yeah,
for work enough, I'm sure.
that's true. Yeah. It's very nice that you live a life that is like 1,000 miles an hour, right? Like the sport
Literally.
we work in is inherently fast paced, you know? And everything about it is super competitive, and everything about it is like it's always in a rush and you're always going somewhere. So it's so nice to just be able to just switch off,
And calm.
relax, go on the water, take a little jolly, you know, explore some nice countryside pubs as
Play
well.
some pool.
I don't know. There is just something so relaxing. There's something so relaxing just about being at that tiller and just going on your way. And there's a specific route that I didn't get to complete with my grandparents. We set off to. We never got to finish it. There's the Llangollen Canal, which runs into Wales. At the end of it, there's a huge viaduct, and it's called the Pont Silic, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. We didn't make it that far, sadly. We had to turn around to get the boat back in time. And I would love to finish that journey for myself and go and see it. So those are, yeah, I guess those are my 2 main ambitions at the moment.
What a niche but lovely too. That I would never have guessed. But
very niche, I'll admit.
Yeah, I think it's important to have things off track that keep you calm, but also keep you switched off, because it is very difficult sometimes to look after your well-being when you're going from here, there, and everywhere, and literally going at 1,000 miles an hour. So yeah, I think hobbies or passions like that are definitely important. And I have some quick fire questions, but one final question before we get into those.
Okay.
If you could spend a day doing a completely different role in the paddock, so none of this commentary, journalism, presenting, none of that, like take away the skill set that you already have in those areas. You can't do any of those are banned. What would you do and why? Just for a day.
Wow. I mean, a driver? Can I pick that?
No, I'm going to say no, because I feel like that one's quite an easy cop out.
Okay, fair enough. I would love to do pit crew.
Okay, interesting.
Specifically in this is gonna sound so nerdy because I know this. Specifically in an LMP2 podcast, Pit Stop. because those are the ones where in like LMP2, LMP3, there are different rules on the pit stops. Like in LMP3, there's a minimum pit stop time, so it's
Mhm.
less of a rush. In LMP2, there is no minimum pit stop time, so it's just about as quickly as you can do it. And it's only like two people to change the wheels, right? So you've got a guy like running around the car doing all four corners of it. I'd
Mm.
love to do that. And for me, those pit stops are so much more entertaining to watch than 1.8 seconds. Failing that, the guy who jumps on the hood of the car to clean the screen,
Clean.
that guy always looks like a badass when he hops onto the front of a race car.
It's kind of giving Spider-Man energy a little bit.
Little bit. I'm gonna channel my inner Toby Maguire.
Have you seen all of the clips of Tom Holland filming Spider-Man in Glasgow?
I've seen quite a lot of them. Yeah, does look good.
But it looks really out of place because you've just got a crowd of people with their phones up.
Yeah, that is bizarre. It's like when I saw is it Liverpool where the Batman was filmed?
Maybe.
Yeah,
I don't
the
know the
Robert
law.
Pattinson one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the recent one, which was brilliant. That's another hobby of mine, by the way. Absolute cinephile. I love
I
movies.
thought you were going to say stuntman.
No, no. No way. I am way too chicken for that.
Yeah, me too. I don't think I could deal with the heights or like throwing myself off stuff. I would much rather be in the safe behind the camera.
I'll throw myself off something. I'll do that.
Okay. Bungee jump?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. I'll do a bungee jump. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. But maybe not without ropes, like stunts without ropes or harnesses.
Depends what I'm going to land in, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, right. Some quick fire questions and then I
Okay,
will
shoot.
give you back the rest of your Monday evening. Okay. So, what are your go-to commentary box snacks?
I always have a can of Coke Zero in the
Ooh.
commentary box with me.
Anything
Always.
to eat?
No, because generally you're either doing like quick 20-minute races,
Yeah.
or you've got like a scheduled break for that.
Mm.
Very rarely I would eat in the commentary box unless you're in there all day and you like take some food in to have in between races. But
Okay.
generally I'm a Coke Zero guy and I will stock up on those for the day.
Mm-hmm. Does it not make you burp?
That's why I've got a mute button.
Poor co-commentators.
It's fine.
Do you know what? Deal with it.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is your favorite circuit to call?
Oh, favorite circuit. Do you know, I've been really singing the praises of Portimao lately.
Okay.
Yeah, because
I
I know
would
they're
love to go actually. I really like Portugal.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And for my, well, it's always great because the layout is fantastic. I love the undulations. The weather is almost always brilliant. But from a very selfish point of view, the Parc Fermé is right next to a set of steps that take you up to the podium, which is also right next to the commentary box. Do you know how handy that is for someone like me?
Dream.
It is brilliant. There's like no other circuit that is designed like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's always like a sprint from one side of the pit lane to the other or the paddock or yeah.
Oh,
like
I've
crazy.
run from like a TV truck over to a podium or to do something else. Like, oh my God. It takes the steps out of
Stuntman,
you.
you're like doing rolls and flips together. Okay, one driver that you would love to interview that you haven't already.
Oh God, that's so hard because I've not to sound like big headed, but I've done so
I've
many.
interviewed them all.
No, yeah, I was always a huge fan of Sebastian Vettel,
Mm.
and I think he probably has the most interesting stories to tell, possibly. Maybe that's a really boring answer, but
No,
I'm really struggling to think of people I haven't
yeah,
already.
it's a good shout. It's a good shout.
Yeah.
And what is one misconception about working in motorsport that you think more people should know?
It's not glamorous.
Mm-hmm.
It
biggest
really is.
one.
Social media wants you to think it's very glamorous, and to be honest, we're all kind of guilty of only showing the nice sides of our lives. But reality is, getting up very early in the morning to go to airports, spending forever in that airport because your flight is inevitably delayed, or spending forever on the tarmac because you've inevitably been delayed. Then waiting ages to go and get your rental car for the weekend, sitting in traffic for a very long time, doing incredibly long hours at the racetrack, not really following a proper food schedule, for example. You'll go through a whole day sometimes, and it's like, damn, I actually haven't had the chance to eat today. Things go wrong. Things always go wrong. Generally, quite a lot of things tend to go wrong. I can't imagine like in any 9 to 5 where we would have so many things going wrong that so many people are unaware of, but you're there like desperately putting out those fires, or at least being told that the fires are being put out
in your ears.
Yeah,
just so you're aware.
The other reality, of course, like we were talking about it earlier, just like you're going to miss family events, you're going to miss birthdays. I missed like one of my best friend's wedding at the start of the year.
Wow.
That was a real,
it's tough,
like massive internal debate, because I was thinking about it and then TNT came along and it was like, okay, no, I'm definitely not.
But it's really can be career changing, those opportunities that you do take instead of, and it's a knock-on effect, isn't it? Because one opportunity leads to the next and to the next. So at the time it can feel difficult, but I think now you could probably look back and say, actually, that happened for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just have to be very aware of burnout as well, because I had so what was it, between the sort of second weekend of April and then up until last weekend, I only had 2 weekends away from the commentary box.
Wow.
And so there's been a very intense period, a very, like, people can say it's a good problem to have, and I agree with that, but something that I very recently have come to accept is that a good problem to have is still a problem that needs to be addressed. So yeah, I hate sitting here being like, oh my god, I'm so busy doing my dream job, and it's like, well, no, the fact that it's your dream job is making this bearable for so long. To be honest, if I wasn't that passionate about what I'm doing, then I probably would have given it up a long time ago.
Yeah, gotta put your well-being first, but that's difficult to do when you say, it's what you love to do and what you're passionate about. So sinking so many hours and so much of your time into it feels easy because you're enjoying it, but taking that time out is very important.
Of course it is, but also I like money, so
I mean, there's that as well. It's your career, so
yeah, exactly.
yeah, okay. And then, have you got an unpopular motorsport opinion for me?
Oh, loads.
That's like so broad, but
no, I probably have a few. You don't need 1,000 overtakes to make a race interesting. I find a lot more interest in the battle, and I think so long as you have a good strategy, then like a good strategy battle, then that makes it interesting enough. Especially when these days, like in Formula One, an overtake is just like a free one because you've got DRS. So I cannot tell you how happy I am that is going to be a thing of the past next year. What else? Oh, I think we sort of touched on this earlier. F1 was not better back in the day. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when your back of the day, or back in the day is. It's not better
it's just
than it is now. It's yeah. It's very much like the same, just a bit different.
Yeah, it's different influences on race results, I guess, depending on the era. Yeah, I do love it that when people are like, back in my day, blah, 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 utter woke nonsense. Final question. Do you have any advice for aspiring commentators?
I heed everything I've said in this show so far. Yeah. Just be prepared to sacrifice a bit of your personal life. Pace yourself, and if it's no longer fun, then just stop doing it. I think this is just good advice for life in general. I have generally gone for what makes me happy, and that has sort of served me quite well along the way. So I think just in general, just make sure you're doing something that makes you happy. And when it stops making you happy, then you should think about doing other things. Leave it for a little bit, right? This is what they always used to say to F1 drivers. If you're thinking about retiring, do one more year. That's probably the best advice I can give.
No, it is good advice, and I think people sometimes do things for the wrong reasons because of different motives. But I think enjoyment is such a big part of what you do in your career and your spare time. So it's good advice.
Yeah, and I think also remember that you're not just like a fan getting super access into a racing event, no matter what it is that you do in motorsport. You're there to do a job. Just remember that through and through. You are there to do a job.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Chris. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving me 2 hours of your evening. It's been so interesting chatting to you and hearing more about your career in motorsport so far. Even just small insights. I think people listening hopefully will take these away and not only apply them to their aspirations and whatever they're doing, but I've just found it so interesting. So thank you.
Good. No, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, 2 hours really did fly by, didn't it?
It did. Time flies when you're having fun.
I know, right?
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Wherever you're listening, make sure you give it a like, a rating, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you very soon for the next episode. Thank you.